Star Trek.
Yeah, or Make It So was the license plate on my 2008 Mazda Tribute.
Why?
Space and Rocket Center things.
Oh, okay.
I was like, Mazda. Oh, Mazda does zoom, so
the Mazda Tribute and my 8x12 inch or 8x12 foot. That'd be a small trailer. 8x12 foot enclosed trailer was the best combination vehicle trailer that I have ever pulled in my life. Really? It just worked really well. The short wheelbase on the Tribute and the shorter enclosed trailer. I've pulled a lot of trailers in my life, but that one kind of was right at the top of it. But what I was just saying as we were rolling into going live is I heard rumors that Ford is introducing, or next model year will be introducing, a Super Duty Maverick, probably everywhere else in the world other than here.
Because here we have an F-150.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And all it would do is steal sales from the F-150.
You don't do that. You don't cannibalize the more expensive product. But hey, in 25 years, you too can have a gray market Super Duty Maverick.
No, not Maverick, Ranger.
Oh.
You said a Super Duty Maverick, though.
Yeah, well, okay. Thank you.
Maybe I said a Maverick, but I meant a Ranger.
But that's still wrong, yeah. It's very confusing.
I was just saying, because Super Duty Maverick confused me.
Yeah, well, see, and actually I saw on a Maverick board, somebody said there's a rumor of a Super Duty Maverick, and I just don't know how you could do a Super Duty truck on a unibody vehicle.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, Super Duty just screams it needs to be body on frame.
Yeah.
Or at least frame. I guess you really don't need the body to make it Super Duty.
Cage on frame.
Seat on frame.
Yeah.
I think they might have crash standards issues with that.
But those big, heavy, once you get to an F-250, none of that stuff applies. Ooh. So if you made your Super Duty Ranger heavy enough to get it above the crash standards.
So a 3/4 ton Ranger. That seems self-defeating. Yeah, auto cannibalism, something like that.
The thing is, you had a 3/4 ton Ranger in that size 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Derek's going through and looking for his new ride. No. And if you have any advice, if anybody out there has any advice on the new Beetle, what to look out for when buying, what's a good model, what's a good trim, what's a good engine, there's a chance I want to buy a Beetle convertible for a project.
You know what my advice is?
Project.
Get an old one.
Well, Smith doesn't make a Ute kit for it.
Yeah, I know.
So that's the project. Got it.
Get creative.
Yeah, see, I got a 2-year lease on the Maverick, so I've got 2 years to build my Smith Ute. So
yeah.
And I want it. He just introduced the kit of my dreams, which is to use a convertible Volkswagen Beetle with the pickup truck bed, the Ute bed, so you can have a convertible pickup.
You could take the kid out of the mini truck scene, but you can't take the mini truck scene out of the kid.
Yep.
Why not? Why not, John? Why not just go buy a Chevy SSR pickup?
Well, if you're going to say that, I can go 30 minutes down the road, and for $13,000, I can buy a Dakota convertible.
Yeah, but the SSR actually kind of looks like the Volkswagen Beetle front end. I mean, it's a convertible, and I mean, come on.
Oh, well, I'll go. It's a Chevy.
Well, okay.
No love for Chevy.
I'm trying to think. I've had the Cavalier. I've had the C10. I might not have had any other Chevy in my life. And the Cavalier wasn't bad, but that was an 86 Cavalier Z24 hatchback.
Nice.
And everybody knows the square body Chevys are great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that might be it for the Chevys of my life. I'm just
Well, everybody knows I'm a GM guy, but the SSR was a little on my end of things. I'm not a big SSR guy.
Well,
Hey,
I'd
GM
rather
put out
have
a
a
lot of better
real
vehicles.
advanced design pickup truck when at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
And if you want one, I mean,
hey,
there's a way to put an LS in that, so you can have your cake and eat it too, in a way.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, the cool thing is what I always thought about doing, but then of course my addiction to pre-World War II cars takes precedent. But I had the Pontiac Solstice for a while, and you can direct bolt a V8 into one of those with only changing the motor mounts. And I had hoped to do that one day, but then I had to go and buy an 1823 Peerless. So, hey, I got the V8.
Did GM engineer it that way, or is that just a convenient aftermarket arrangement?
I never specifically have asked. I maybe I'll ask some of the GM engineers I know, but for now we'll go. It was a happy, convenient accident.
Just because, like the 62 Nova, like they engineered the V8 swap for that out the gate, but they didn't put a V8 in that car till 65. And it seems like too much of a coincidence. That's a car that I really love. Not to get too far afield here, though, is I would love to own a first generation Nova with a 283 or a 327 and a 4-speed. That's what I wished my Camaro was when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Boy, it must have changed in those 10 years, because when I was in high school, Novas were not looked upon very fondly.
No, I was not following the trend in that respect at all. That's just me. I liked that boxy.
Well,
I like Ramblers too.
I don't know that any of the three of us follow trends in the automotive world.
But eventually, the Nova has gained a reputation and has become a acceptable vehicle. But it was just
the 66 and to a certain extent 67, which is kind of a slicked up body compared to the 62 to 65 cars, with that L79 327. I mean, that's a legendary drag strip car. So they get a lot of their street cred from that. And then any small block swapped early Nova is kind of aping that to an extent. But yeah, I mean, they were economy cars and not even considered an especially Chevrolet vehicle, since they were really kind of an upsized Falcon if you look at the front suspension and all that, because they just looked at the best-selling compact and said, okay, make a Chevy version of that, because the Corvair didn't hit.
I guess that would make sense in your car lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it needs to make sense to me. But
Jason has joined us in the comments, guys. Jason is back on the viewer commentator side of things.
Welcome back.
Good to see you back in the chat room, Jason. And I'm going to push a button for a new feature, and we're going to see what this.
We're going to see what this feature does. Yeah. But Jason did ask a question, and maybe that question will pop up. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, maybe it has to pop up as
we
post it. I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. So anyway, Jason, because of my comment about talking to GM engineers, I don't know what the high-pitched squeal in the background is, but Jason asked, or he said he has a question for GM engineers. Why are the Corvette racing cars always Z06 and not ZR1s? Now, Jason, I don't 100% know the answer to that, but I will do my best to answer it and then ask the GM engineers I know. But my take on it, from knowing Corvette history and the way Team Corvette works, the Z06 has always been the wide body heritage vehicle. So the first, Z06s were the race cars for Corvette. And I think it comes down to a heritage answer, which is the Z06 has always been the race car of Corvette from its inception, and so they stick with the heritage. And we all know Corvette sticks with heritage pretty tightly throughout its production. So I really think that's what it comes down to, is the Z06 is always aimed to be the Corvette to take racing, and the ZR1 has always been the high performance street car not intended for the track. That would be my short answer, not knowing, not being on the inside, but I'm happy to talk to designers and engineers I know to get the real answer.
Didn't the first CR1 is pretty track oriented, though. It didn't even have like a radio in it, and it was solid lifters. But the rest, I mean, I'm willing to take your word for it if you say the rest of them have been plusher than that, because I haven't followed them. But the original ZR1 is what my dad was aping when he built his '69 coupe with the LT1 in it. So I'm kind of aware of that car, and that it was rather bare bones, and that's one of the things we admired about it. But
they were, but when Zora did the first Z06, it was really meant to be the road course, high performance, go out and kick serious ass in a Corvette. So I think it really comes down to heritage. And the ZR1 was brought out as a high performance raceable car, but the heritage going back to Zora with the Z06, I think plays the factor in why even today the Z06 gets billed as the car for racing.
Now, is Z06 like Z28? Does that have its origin in an RPO code? As in, Z06 gives you big brakes, big tank.
Yeah, that is the RPO code. Yeah, Z06. Okay. Yep. ZR1 RPO code. Yeah, Yep.
Z24, the Cavalier that John just mentioned. RPO code.
Z71 trucks, right?
Yeah.
ZR2s.
Z066.
Z066. Okay, what's that one?
That was the high performance 2-wheel drive Avalanche.
Nice.
Vaguely remember that now.
I've never seen that painted on the side of one though.
They were really hard to find. There was one at the dealership I bought my S10 from in 2003, because I'm a 2-wheel drive truck guy, and so I'm always looking for the high performance 2-wheel drive truck. I'm not into the Raptors and crap like that. And
so you want the old Chevy SS truck, 454. Yeah.
I like the 454. I like the Cyclone. I like, which of course is all-wheel drive. It kind of kills my, but I like my 2-wheel drive trucks. But and I had a little Red Express. So, and I mentioned right before the show, the Dakota convertible, and it's still tempting to get a Dakota convertible. It's really, the one near me for sale is not that expensive, and there's a real interesting one. That was recently, it might still be for sale in Pennsylvania, where it's a Dakota convertible, but it's done up as a Shelby Dakota, but Shelby Dakotas never came convertible. So it's a Dakota convertible Shelby clone, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I love a good Phantom. Years ago.
There's Jason's little comment.
Hey, now it's working. Yeah, I guess we had to turn it on beforehand, so it only populates as it comes in. So Dave, this one's for you.
Yeah, what's the picture over your left shoulder?
I can't read it. It's too small on my screen.
What's the picture over your left shoulder?
Over my left shoulder. So, this is a painting that my dad did back in the '60s. So he was about 14, something like that. And it's a scene from a sports car magazine, which is the actual magazine page is folded up in the back of the painting. But he, blew it up and painted it. And a bunch of guys looking at one of the original Cobra prototypes when Carroll Shelby had it painted yellow. And this is like a police motorcycle. And I don't know who this guy in the sunglasses is, but he looks kind of like John V. DeLorean a little bit, except he's not as frighteningly tall.
I would probably,
very nice,
since you have a picture of, or the magazine that it was painted from, I would probably get a copy of the magazine and frame the.
I have tried, and it's a pretty obscure title that was only around for a couple of years. Like it was like 62 to 66 or something. Maybe not even that, like 62 to 64 maybe, that it was around. And the back issues that I have found have not been the one that have that illustration in it. I should have an eBay saved search, which I don't think I do. But yeah, I'd very much like to get a copy of the whole magazine.
Nice.
So I'm driving down the interstate today and come up on a black Maserati Gran Turismo. I guess that's what they're called now. The two-door sports car Maserati. Probably built in the last 5 years. And the guy has this big, massive, it looks like a GT3 wing bolted to the deck lid backwards.
Backward.
Instead of curving.
Gets downforce in reverse.
Well, it would be, well, technically, I guess if you mounted a wing back upside down, it would create lift. But this one was just take the wing and flip it around 180 degrees because it curved. It was on these aluminum struts coming out of the deck lid, and it curved, but in the opposite direction the car curved, if that makes sense. So it came to the points over the taillights as opposed to the points being towards the front of the deck lid. And I thought that's odd.
No, wait. Are you sure it wasn't one of those like 1990s TV antennas that were on limousines? Maybe you had
the boomerang one.
It would have been a really big one because it hung over each side of the car.
Great reception.
And I mean, on my old convertible Isuzu truck, I actually had a wing from an 88 Celica adapted to it. And it worked because it was cheap, but it didn't look great. So I kept that in mind that, sometimes I did stupid modifications. Not saying his modification was stupid, but I'm going, would you insult him? Would you compliment it? Or, I'm always encouraging anybody who takes to their car and, it's their car and they do things to it. And you might think it's the dumbest thing in the world to take some ratted out four-door or something and put the coffee can exhaust and, every sticker and that you could buy from, I guess, Alibaba. Is that the new JC Whitney catalog or something?
Kind of.
Stick it all over this car. But I don't ever want to be negative to these people because at some point they might grow, or I would say eventually get the income. But Jesus, this guy's driving a Maserati and it's running. So
the other thing you have to be careful of, John, is you don't know if he listens to No Driving Gloves. He could have been listening to the podcast in that.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't want to discourage it. It drew my attention. I remembered it 6 hours later, and as old as I am and as the way my memory is, I don't remember a lot of things 6 hours later.
The goldfish cracker.
Well, I'm starting to wonder because Disapproving Cat asked if it was carbon fiber. I'm wondering if he's trying to head somewhere with this. So, was it carbon fiber, John?
That I don't know. I mean, I was cruising along at a solid 71 miles an hour because that's where I set my cruise control on the interstate. And
for all of the Alabama State Police listening.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I drive, I get paid by the hour. So there's no sense in speeding. So I go the speed limit and I just take my dandy old time, and you can ask the lines of cars that form behind me.
Disapproving Cat says he bets it was $340 on eBay. I'm starting to wonder how he knows exactly how much it costs on eBay, sounding like he may have one on his car.
It is bad looking, but looks semi-functional. I guess maybe he actually has one of these, or he's got it saved in his wish list.
Yeah,
for his Maserati.
We love giving Disapproving Cat a hard time.
Not his style. Yeah. Well, you know what?
He doesn't own it, or he doesn't have it in his wish list.
I can't speak to the wish list, I guess. But you know what my guess is that our Maserati owner probably drilled the deck lid backward and then was like, well, I'm not going to plug these holes and re-drill it, and just bolted it on the wrong way.
I don't think a Maserati dealership would have done this.
I don't think a Maserati dealership.
He didn't say that. He said the Maserati owner drilled it the wrong way. Yeah.
Could have been, but
Oh God,
I guess-
Dave, you remember that Chevy Beretta I had, the black Beretta?
In a kind of non-remembering way, like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I had that right. I rarely brought. I mean, I brought the GTO up every now and then.
I
but,
distinctly
the
remember
Beretta
the
was fun.
GTO, but yes, no,
Yeah.
I don't really have a great handle on. I mean, do you remember my
So-
Escort?
No, not really.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so I don't feel bad. Yeah. So anyway,
No,
continue.
somebody speaking of rear spoilers and wings. One of the previous owners had put the low spoiler on mine, which was on the Berettas. They had evidently ordered it from a dealership and but they put it on themselves. And I mean, they didn't drill the holes. You'd open the deck lid, and it's like they took tin snips and just like cut holes. They were so jagged and like edges rolled over.
I wonder if they like used a punch or something.
I think they used a screwdriver, a punch, tin snips, everything but a drill and a deburring tool.
Well, sometimes you're just in a hurry for that project to be done.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, you had an Escort. What car did we take to the junkyard? I don't remember. I don't remember who drove.
I think we might have taken my Escort on that
Maybe
one.
we did.
Yeah, because it was really reliable and it got great fuel economy. That car even had a name. That car was named Bluey. That was the last car my grandfather bought new. He bought it on closeout when the '94 models came out, and in the
Nice.
fall of '94. And then he died in January of '94, so he didn't have the car very long. But my grandmother retired it in '01 in favor of a neon and gave it to me, and then I had it in college. So it was a good car, not exciting, but good. And it actually is what inspired me to get into Falcons, because I was like, I like driving a Ford Compact. I just wish it was simpler and cooler looking. And the Falcons definitely scratched that itch. So
Nice. Sorry, we
And-
got off.
Novas
We're
have always
really
been
good
on
at
my price range.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
really good at not talking about a topic. That's what No Driving Gloves is all about.
Well,
Hey,
we
I did research this week, so I'm eager to get to the topic.
we just occasionally we have a topic to fall back on depending on how the conversation goes. That's why the descriptions are so hard to do anymore. But the Dave's Lounge sign is phenomenal, according to Neil.
That's because Neil gave it to me.
Yeah.
I've had that since college. That was I lived in a house with Neil, and so he gave that to me for my space in the house.
And Disapproving Cat does say his camera quality got better so we can actually read it.
Yeah, folks are noticing the camera quality.
Yeah, hey, and it was in my pocket this whole time.
Disapproving Cat does have
Whoa,
a good question.
whoa. We do not hate driving gloves. It's not entitled "We Hate Driving Gloves." It's entitled "No Driving Gloves." It is the gloves off approach to the automotive hobby. Okay. We're not talking about that we don't like driving gloves. We're just saying during this show, no driving gloves because we're going gloves off. All right.
Well, actually, that's the true reason behind the name, but I do hate driving gloves. They're stupid.
John does not speak for the entirety of this podcast.
Well, John's used to driving cars with windows and roofs and things like that.
Derek's got his cavalry gauntlets to protect his hands from the steam car.
Actually, I need to get a pair of those. I have a pair of driving gloves for when I drive a few of the cars at work, some of the sport roadsters, and things. And actually, I'll use them with the Lloyd as well. But I do need to get some good gauntlets for my early cars.
I have a pair of gauntlets, and I bought them because of my first Falcon, which needed a gasket on the vent window, and so it blew freezing cold air on my wrist in the winter. It was easier to get the gauntlets and just cover my wrist.
Yeah.
I don't know if
wait, Jason, I got a comment on Jason's comment here.
Oh.
It's not that Dave's microphone is bad. Dave just talks like he's from the 1950s all the time. I went to college with him. That's just Dave.
Yeah, he's using a retro ribbon mic. Yeah, because they're saying everybody's camera seems to be better. Dave still sounds like you're from the 50s, and they do recommend you getting a new mic.
Well, I'm
And
it's
if
coming,
people
but
would click the QR code up in the corner of the screen, that you can buy us coffees, and that's what we use to improve our equipment.
we go. Yeah, I should start a GoFundMe. Get Dave a better mic.
Yeah, come on, chip in, everybody. Get Dave.
Sounds like an Edison recording. That gives it's Dave in the vintage feel. I mean, he's got the rusty color and the background, and he's from a different time.
It's like when you hear Lewis Black talk about North Korea and he says that's actually black and white there, that's not the pictures. It's his. My world is actually sepia toned. It's sort of like Mexico in Breaking Bad, but without all of the drugs.
That's what Jason just said. You have
And there goes the sepia tone comment. Oh.
So I have this background behind me, and it's the cover art for this episode. And I have stolen a portion of Mark Greene's logo, because I used to I love Cars Yeah. I love Mark Greene on Cars Yeah. Derek has actually appeared on Cars Yeah. I don't know what episode or whatever. But
remember,
I really got thinking about questions he used to ask, and I wanted to throw out a couple to us because it might actually help define some of us, and we've got a good group of viewers this evening. So give us some feedback if you even agree. We're going to work with 2 questions he used to ask all of his guests at different points in the show. Different time frames, not the same episode, but different time frames in the show. And a couple episodes, he actually asked the 2 questions in the same show. One is, if you were a car, what would you be? And if you were given a car, money, no object, but it's the only car you can have for the rest of your life, you can have no other vehicle, what vehicle would that be? And I just kind of want to throw it out to all of us to see what we feel our personality is if we were cars, and what would be can't necessarily be our dream vehicle, but would be our dream, most practical, live the rest of our life vehicle.
So I got a question about the if you were a vehicle, because do I have to be a 1982 model year vehicle? Because I have an answer if I do, but I'm not sure it's the one that most perfectly defines me automotively.
I have an answer to Jason's question, but I don't think I don't.
Well, I'll answer Dave's question because of my having been on the show. No, when Mark asked the question, it's if you were any car in automotive history, what car would you be? What car personifies you as the person you are?
Perfect. Got it. Wow.
And
John can get really far away.
So, hey, whatever. It's the Dave and Derek show. So what do you got, Dave? What car are you?
So I kind of actually polled people I knew for this one. I was like, so what do you guys think about this? I asked my kids. My kids were like, I don't know enough cars. Why are you asking me this? But and my answer, if it was 1982, was probably an F100. It's the closest thing you can get to a 40s vehicle in 1982, because it's still got it's got the split I-beam, which is they were using that on Allards in the 40s, and it's got the 300 cubic inch straight 6 and the 4-speed with the non-synchro, and it's an F100, which was an anachronism by then. So I felt identified with that pretty well. But I would say, and of course, I first went at it what's my favorite car, and I'm like, that's not really a car that reflects me, because I really like the Gow job early 30s TA kind of era, but I'm not sure that that's really me at the end of the day. So I think what I came up with is probably like a 40s club coupe, like a 41 Plymouth, or maybe a 49 Chrysler Club Coupe with like overdrive. Something that's still rugged enough that can go anywhere, but it's still kind of classy looking, and maybe not like the sexiest car you could get that year, but has aged pretty well. So that's where I'm going.
Nice. All right. Well, John's back, so now he's going to answer Jason's question about if everybody didn't see Jason's question, which was, John, when did you realize that you were a car guy? Was there a pivotal moment in your life?
Well, I've been told that my parents believe I've been a car guy since I was born. I used to cry at stoplights, be quiet at green lights. There's a picture floats around of me on Facebook of me in the old 70 Charger and things like that. But what I define as my and Spike's Car Radio, the podcast, they call it a taproot moment, and they have taproot cars and that. But I can tell you the actual moment that I knew I was a car guy, and that's why I disappeared for a second, because I've had this, and I know the statute of limitations has run out. And unfortunately, it's trimmed in green, and I have a green screen. But this issue of Car and Driver from September 1984, it highlights the 288 GTO, which was the state-of-the-art Ferrari at the time, and the 1947 Spider Corsa Ferrari, which is the first Ferrari, is what this article was referring to it as. I checked this out from the Warren Elementary School Library. Well, actually, it was a K through 12 school, but the Warren School Library. If Warren was still there, I probably owe a substantial fine on this. But this car magazine is what I classify, and I keep it in my office here. I guess I should get rid of the green screen and let you guys see my office, because I keep pulling all these props from the background lately. But so September 1984 is when, ever since then, my life has revolved around cars. It's slowed down a little bit in the last couple of years, but there's parts of me that it's creeping back into. I bought the Mini, started to have a little bit more car fun, bought the truck, and I've done some custom things and that to it. Also, as much as I'm allowed to do, I would really love to put a lowering kit on it, but there's two complications with that. But hope that answers your question a little bit, Jason. Is September-ish 1984, that car magazine, that Car and Driver. Ever since then, I've been a car guy.
And that's also when John began his career of theft and entire criminal lifestyle.
Now, actually, I think that began about
Grand
2 or 3
theft,
years earlier.
Grand theft periodicals.
The Miami Vice theme starts playing now.
So, I probably can't tell you about the earlier thefts because the statute of limitations probably hasn't run out on those yet. But okay, I'm trying to figure out. I came up with this idea like 2 weeks ago, told the guys about it a week ago, and I'm still struggling a little bit on what car would I be.
It's tough because it's different from necessarily what you like, what reflects you. How about you, Derek? You got any?
Well, first off, Jason, I'm not sure if you attempted to post the link to the Cars Yeah episode, but it did not come through. I see you say above is Derek's episode on Cars Yeah, but there's no link or anything that came through. So if you did try to post it, maybe try to post it again. But if you listen to that episode of Cars Yeah, and the question is asked, at that time, I talked about, kind of, I think everybody that knows me, and I don't know, I think John and Dave would agree with this, but, all of my staff anywhere I've worked has always kind of felt this way about me. I'm very intentional and very methodical. A lot of my leadership of my staff and things I do in my life are, you know, everything is very intentional, and I don't want to waste too much time on different things, and I'm very simple and all of that. So in my Cars Yeah episode, I actually picked the 1886 Benz Patent Motor Wagen as the car I would be, because it was built to do one thing and do that one thing very intentionally. And so at that time, that was the car I would pick. But when John brought this back up, and I've thought more about it, surprisingly, I probably lean a little bit of the way that, Dave leans if he had to pick a vehicle from the year he was born. So I guess if I really thought about it a little deeper, and now that I'm however many years older, probably at least 5 years since I was on that episode of Cars Yeah, but probably some kind of pickup truck, something that's meant to do work, meant to be very intentionally used. But of course, nowadays especially, is able to be a family vehicle. And now that I've got 2 kids and all that wonderful stuff, you got to add that family mix in there. So I'd probably pick some kind of pickup truck today. I don't know if I have a specific one in mind, but I think if I had to answer the question again, or seeing I am answering the question again, I would definitely go with a pickup truck.
Chevy LUV.
No.
Anyone but that.
Just no.
Okay.
See, and I think I've come up with what car I would be, but then it sounds like maybe it's why I have such a passion for these cars. And then it would be more, and it's going to be some sort of British sports car. Maybe more of a little bit of a British or Italian touring car, where maybe that is it. What would you guys think of a Fiat 124, or is it 128, the little 4-door sedan? Because they're problematic and troublesome, which talk to my boss after my meeting today. Talk to my 2 co-workers here. But I am problematic and I am troublesome. I try to get my way. I have a bit of fun in my lineage, which to me, the Fiat would lean going back to Ferrari and Maserati and that over its generations. But there's a sense of practicality and efficiency about it. But again, there's that remote that sometimes I don't do the most intelligent thing in the world. So it's probably going to be something like, it wouldn't be a Fiat Multipla, because I'm not that practical and that efficient, and I really don't like that many people. but I guess I could even probably go to a Fiat Spider or an Alfa Romeo Spider. That would be it. Let's go with an Alfa Romeo Spider from the mid-70s or so. Not the best performing vehicle, but again, problematic, troublesome, kind of cool to look at, and from some angles, you just don't want to see it. Kind of round.
Yep.
I like it.
No.
I like it. And, I think the thing about Italian cars is they really kind of embody a level of passion, even the pedestrian ones. Like, it's clearly a labor of love to own one.
Yeah, and Neil's right. Even the shifter in the Alphas the Alpha Spiders in an odd position, because it comes out from the dashboard more than up from the floor.
Right.
And it's Italian, and I'm kind of Italian. So,
Yeah. Right.
boy, I hit a lot of it. Okay.
I'm Italian and Scottish, and I didn't pick anything Italian or Scottish. So
What was I
not a
going
lot
to
of Scottish to
Name
pick
a
from.
name a Scottish car. Argyle. I think that's the only one I can think of.
But was that actually made in Scotland?
I think so. I think
Which
it's the second
Argyle?
town where it was made.
Which era Argyle are you talking about?
I think this is like 20s.
Okay, because I think there was an Argyle made here in the U.S. as well.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. The standard catalog of pre-war cars is like thicker than the New York City phone book, and
No, I know, I love it. Best book ever written.
I have that, but it's in
Yeah.
storage. I can't pull that out from behind me.
I had 3 copies of it. I gifted one to my dad, and now I have 2 copies. So
it's a wonderful read. We used to call it the standard catalog of misinformation, because particularly the post-war one has a lot of incorrect.
the post-war ones, yeah.
It's
terrible.
a great finding aid, and like the pre-war one's got the list of like locations that you can cross-reference with. But the Argyle, the Scottish Argyle, is not in there because it's the standard catalog of American cars.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's like there was an American Austin made in Grand Rapids, Michigan in like 1907. Not any relation to the British Austin, but yeah.
Such a fantastic car, though. Oh.
Oh, you would have loved it a ton. I don't know why I didn't bring this up when you asked me what had happened this week. A ton of brass cars went by my place. I live on a state highway where people cut the corner between New York and Massachusetts. And so this cryptic group of elderly brass enthusiasts went on a tour to Williamstown, which is a college town just the other side of the state line in Massachusetts. They're called the Friends of Antique Road Transportation, or FART.
Yeah, the Farts tour.
Okay, I didn't know about this, but my buddy Dave, who lives in Williamstown, knew all about it, and here you are. But anyway, I'm standing here with my window open, and you can hear an antique auto engine when it goes by, and I go, what the heck? And a red Stutz Bearcat is just disappearing out of sight. And I'm like, did I have a stroke? This is not happening. And this was like shortly after I moved here, a passenger train went by. And there hasn't been a passenger train on these rails since the 50s. But it was the one time when they had a special color train running for. So I love this little corner of Vermont. But yeah, saw 10 or 12 brass cars go by. And then the next day they were headed the other way as I went into town. So I got to see them all again in the opposite direction.
Yes. Fantastic.
But I can't identify my brass stuff except a very few things, and the kind people that put the script in the radiator so I can read the name.
Yes.
Pope Hartford. Okay, great. Didn't you get attacked by a brass car, Studebaker Garford or something, like sucked you in and broke your arm, teeth, something like that?
Moving right along.
Okay, well, sorry.
No, I did not break my arm, but I did wind up with some chipped teeth, and yeah, it was a big 30 horsepower engine that sometimes they decide to go the wrong way. And yeah, the only I will say this: I've now been doing this for well over 25 years of playing with early cars that are hand crank. And it is the only one time that I have ever been injured by a hand crank. So
well, that's why I had to put
pride in the fact that I haven't been hurt.
Because it broke my foot. Because I had an electronic ignition on it, which when the battery goes low, they go full advance. And then when you step on the Kickstarter, it backfires and puts your foot
Comes
in
back
the
at you.
box.
Yeah.
So. All right, John. Now we've got to talk about this. What car would you own for the rest of your life? Which I was not prepared for. So I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to need you guys for inspiration before I dive into this one.
I think John's got to answer first.
Well, I want you guys to qualify part of this, because if you choose, say, I choose the Alpha again, which is not what I would choose. Do I have to deal with all the maintenance and that and the breakdowns and the troubles? or is it going to be a perfectly running car for the rest of my life? So with
Oh,
this unlimited cash that you receive to buy whatever, it also covers all the maintenance, and basically every time you go out to it, it starts and runs and is perfect. Or
So
do
this-
you, or
this
what you
could be like a
choose,
Tucker or something.
or if what you choose is that what you choose, and whatever problems it has, you live with.
That
You know
does
what,
change
Steve?
the equation.
This is your dream world, John. You can have whatever short, cute, blonde mechanic that is an expert in whatever car you want there whenever you need her. How's that?
Then you want something unreliable and Italian, probably, is what I'm hearing.
Well, are we talking about the mechanic or the car?
Now, you want a reliable mechanic to work on the unreliable car.
I don't know if I want a blonde Italian anyway.
Yeah, they're from up near the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, you got a problem with that area because that's
Yeah.
where my family's from.
I was going to say, I mean, that's where Turin is, right? It's like the Detroit of
Yeah.
Italy, and it's up in the Po Valley, and it's cold.
Yep. And my family is from northwest of there. We had a vineyard up in the foothills of the Alps.
So
Moore is not a very Italian surname. Anglicized it when you came here.
That's the
Morelli?
Scottish side.
Okay.
That's the Scottish side. My
and
mom is the
would,
Italian.
when Mark would always ask this question, that was always my thing: is do I want to choose something because, and obviously I'm going to be different than you guys. I imagine you're going to pick something earlier, and I'm going to pick something later, but maybe not as late. And I would probably have to say I kind of touched on it earlier in the episode, or maybe it was right before we went on air. Might have been right before we went on air. No, I don't know if that's it. See, it's a tough one when you can have anything you want, but you've got to let it do everything you want. Because even look at my driveway right now, I've got my some people call it a sports car. I've got a truck and I've got a work car, because not one car can do anything perfect.
Well, you got to pick one that can. It's a compromise.
Let's go back to me being an Alfa Romeo Spider. There is no compromise.
There is no compromise. Yes, there is. It's called the Volkswagen Beetle convertible U. We established that at the beginning of the show.
Yep, there you
Hauls
go.
your stuff,
Picked his car.
gets fuel economy, and is fun.
And see, I was leaning to the Shelby Dakota clone convertible that's available in Pennsylvania right now, because then you can have some performance. I can have my convertible. You can, it can always be further lowered, and, and it's still a practical truck if I need it to be a truck. But if I ever decided to do something off-road or campy-ish, it doesn't quite work for that. So, boy, exciting radio as we all sit here.
Yeah, this is wonderful dead air.
Well, it's your answer, Derek. Do you have one right offhand?
Well, before the show, I was told I can't change my answer from when I gave my answer on cars. Yeah, so if I have to give that, then the answer is a Buick Model F, circa 1909, which was my answer on cars. Yeah.
So if Derek comes to visit you and he decides for the road trip, he has to budget a couple weeks.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Well, he's got unlimited cash to have this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his riding mechanic. Oh, their dusters and goggles.
If I'm driving a Buick Model F, I'm going to be a happy camper all the way. So I'm good.
But that's going to do everything you need it to do in your life. Haul the kiddos around, take the wife out to dinner.
Yeah, it's a touring car. Yeah.
Bring home electricity for your magnetos or whatever you want to call it. And
I mean, it worked for people in the early 1900s. Why wouldn't it work today? Mm-hmm.
Well,
Disapproving cat gave me my answer. It's not the Volkswagen Carmen Ghia convertible, though. I think I want to have one of the Chic's Bentley Rolls Royce shooting brakes.
Ooh, a shooting brake. I like that.
So
Nice.
you have the luxury, you can have some performance, you got the room for the practicality. Then that would be it. It would have to be one of those Rolls Royce, probably Bentley. I'd go with a Bentley shooting brake. Did he have the silver? Hell, I can have whatever I want. I want a Bentley Continental GT shooting brake.
There you go.
all right. Well,
Now-
so
Oh, go ahead, Dave. Good.
so now that I've had some time to think about it, and I have two answers because, of course, I always have two answers. But the one is if I have to maintain it myself, I'm probably going to go back to Falcon, and a wagon wouldn't be a bad idea. Although, as my life changes, I find I need different cars. Like every car I've owned, I've been like, well, this is my forever car, right? My first Falcon, I was like, this is my forever car, and then I was like, well, what if this had a 5-speed and disc brakes? And so that justified a whole new Falcon. And then that wasn't very satisfactory, especially once I moved to Vermont and didn't need to do 70 all the time. So then I got the Corvair, this is going to be my forever car because I can get, my parts from Clark's and it goes on all these roads. But now I'm in a situation where I use my car for work and I need something that'll do 70 miles an hour. So I'm like, well, I'm back to where actually a Falcon would make some sense because they're still sturdy enough and they sit high enough up off the roads that I can take them down back roads, even though it's two-wheel drive. A wagon especially would have great traction in those situations. Parts are easy to get because they share 95% of their stuff with early Mustangs, so it's all cheap and easy to get. Just like a small block Ford and an automatic or a 4-speed, that'd be fine with me on one of those. Keep it simple. But if this comes with the unlimited maintenance budget and the mechanic staff to maintain it and everything, I want a Woody. Probably I think a 39 Ford Woody. I love the 39 Ford Deluxe, and I like the fact that a Woody can be like an 8-passenger vehicle or it can be a cargo hauling vehicle. I'm not a purist, so I could fit mine with overdrive off of Lincoln and get that 70 miles an hour out of it, maybe a later flathead for some more cubes, but still dressed up like 1939. So that'd be my forever car if it came with the in-house maintenance staff and the maintenance budget.
Jason asked, does it have to be an all-encompassing car? No, it doesn't, Jason, but it's the only vehicle you ever get to use again in your life. So
good luck getting your groceries home in your 288, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
288 rally car.
Now,
one bag at a time.
If I am allowed to change my answer for this episode, that is now driving gloves.
We'll let you. Your life's changed from those days.
Life has changed, but everybody on here knows that the reason I buy the cars I buy is because they get stuck in my head. And if I can't forget about them, then that's when I tend to try to, get my hands on them. Because there have been a lot of cars I've come across. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then 2 days later, if I don't remember seeing it, then I don't need it. But if in 4 weeks it's still playing on my mind, I probably should go try to get it. And in this case, it would be a more modern car that would do pretty much everything other than tow. But since I got to see the car up close and personal the year it was unveiled, and it happened to be at the Detroit Auto Show that year, since then, I have been absolutely obsessed, and thank God we would have all the money in the world we need. But one of the Bentley Arnage drophead coupes. Beautiful cars, modern, love them. I think they built like 20 of them. I want one. So I'll take that.
Go big or go home.
So,
Exactly.
So 66% of us choose Bentleys.
Yeah.
Okay, I changed my mind. A 3-liter red seal
Now wait.
with the
No,
Wayman touring body.
But wait, if you noticed, everybody refers to me as a little old man, and I picked a Buick and a Bentley. So I think I'm sticking with the little old man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's hard, really. I think if you've got the money to either maintain it, like a old Turbo R, or a Continental GT, or like you say, your Arnage, or your flying. Is it fly? I can't remember what the other Bentley, big Bentley is. Not a Flying Spur. That's a Rolls, whatever. I think Bentleys are honestly pretty good choices for cars overall. They just, especially for me, because I like sporty, I like luxury, I like comfort, and I mean, it doesn't have to be a Bentley, but it kind of has to be a Bentley. It's not for the name or the pompous in your face. I'm rich enough to afford a Bentley. Just lucky enough to have acquired one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Does that help anybody figure out our personalities?
Probably not.
Don't ask these people to be our therapist.
Jason
wait,
Rolls-Royce Blue Train.
Hang on, because we've got a little time left.
Yeah,
I want to flip this. I want to flip this on its head. Do we all agree, or what would we see each other as or in? In other words, Dave, we've known each other for a very long time. Do you agree with the choices I made, or would you say something else if somebody asked you that question about me?
Okay, so I mean, my knee-jerk response when I think of you, honestly, is Roosevelt, 1929 Roosevelt.
Well, I own one, and Dad and I love that car.
Yeah, well, your enthusiasm for it I'm. So have you ever read Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammett about the guy?
No,
It's the book that Fistful of Dollars is based on, or Yojimbo. These, guy comes to town, decides he doesn't like all the criminals that run the place, pits them against each other, gets them to kill each other off. But one of the characters drives a little Marmon in that, which is the predecessor to the Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the brass Buick made sense. I feel like the Marmon is maybe more you because it's actually a little more obscure and just you are someone that likes to tell a story. And people hear Buick and they're like, oh yeah, Buick, okay. People see Roosevelt and then they're like, what the heck is this? And then you get to tell the story. So that's where I'm at for you. Yeah. And then I think John the mini truck is, I mean, this is the endearing fact that I've attached to John, is that he's a mini truck guy. So the 89 Shelby Cobra, or Shelby Dakota, that could be cool, especially the roadster version. Yeah. So or the Volkswagen, the Beetle Ute. Don't discount it.
I haven't attached anything for Dave yet. I mean, he and I've known each other barely a year. If I had to throw something out, and honestly, every time I think of you, it's the Corvair or the Falcon, and of course you have those. But I'm kind of thinking more I mean, either going like a mid 60s Dodge Power Wagon or International Scout, where it's very practical, very rugged, very durable. At the time, dependable. Maybe that's wrong. Like I say, I haven't quite pinned it on you. And I mean, I got my job selling cars initially 30 years ago because I sat in the interview and I told everybody what they drove. And they were amazed. I did not get, out of the 3 people interviewing me, I did not get one of them wrong. And one of them actually didn't drive. I was going to go to work at a Pontiac Isuzu dealership, and they did not drive that.
Huh. Well, I like it.
Derek he's a little bit on the unusual. And I mean, if you think of the stuff he owns, it's just kind of all over the board. Of course, he's Falcon. He's the little green sports car he owns. The fact he owned the Pontiac Solstice at one point in his life, but he's a truck guy. I mean, he's all over the board that way, but his personality, again, like he said, he's kind of dependable, very intelligent, very experienced, very family oriented, especially now. Doesn't like a lot of, to me, pomp and circumstance around his life. He doesn't need anything flashy or such. And that might lead me to, and I'm putting everybody in an SUV, but Derek's probably more of a Suburban. And I'm going earlier Suburban, like 50s era. So it's got some classic lines in it. Stands up, makes, you notice it, but it's not in your face noticeable. I mean, not lower, nothing Will would build. Anybody who remembers Will from the show? Somebody on here said, Jason said, I'm a Typhoon. And Jason said, Dave is a Coupe de Ville.
Mm-hmm.
But
a 76 Coupe de Ville. He was very specific, Dave.
Good Lord. With the 500 cubic inch engine.
So.
Yeah.
Gas
So
guzzler.
I would say for Dave, because I've known him for so long now, to be honest, Dave, I never thought the Camaro was fitting.
It was
a
I
great
loved it, but it was not me.
Yeah, it was a great car. It wasn't fitting. The Falcon, the Corvair, yeah, good. I think you had some good choices, but to be honest, I would, if I had to put you in something, it'd be a shoebox Ford. Early 50s era shoebox Ford. That's what I see for Dave.
That's kind of where I was going when I was into the 40s sport coupe, coupe vein earlier. I picked Chryslers because I like that flathead 6, and I'm a little suspicious of flathead V8s because they tend to be cracked. But man, I do love a 49 to 51 club coupe. That is, and those had overdrive, real credit, from the factory. So yeah.
And John, I mean, I'm kind of, personality wise, kind of the way he is. I'm kind of leaning with Dave again. And I think really the mini truck, the Dodge Dakota, Shelby, that's fitting. That's, to me, that's very much says John's here.
And what's funny is you say that, mini truckish. Dave says that. Jason's saying GMC Typhoon. You guys are both going with the Dakota convertible, but I might have biased it because I talked about that before. But what might combine...
Yeah, I can see a Typhoon. Any of those that like
what might
late 80s, early 90s.
Best is the 1991 GMC Cyclone Marlboro edition Cyclone that had the T-tops. They made 12 of them.
I don't remember that one. That sounds very of its time, though. Wow.
Oh, it very of its time.
Wow.
I can't remember if you got it with
Yeah.
Marlboro Miles or if it was given away in a contest, but it might have been a Marlboro Miles. And if you saved up 20 million Marlboro Miles, you got to enjoy it for the 3 years and had plenty of room to carry around your ventilator.
Yeah.
That was back when Hot Rod Magazine always had a girl in a neon bikini on the cover and a Marlboro man on the back cover.
Yeah.
Do you know Truckin' Magazine about that point in time? Speaking of mini trucks, they actually published for one summer. They published 2 different issues each month, and they released them in different areas of the country. And they would have one issue would have a girl on the cover with the truck, and the other one would have the truck from the exact same angle without the girl in the picture. And the magazines that did not have the girl sold better than the ones that did.
Well, I can
'Cause she
remember
wasn't
not
there
wanting
blonde.
to be seen wandering around with a girly magazine, when I was really just looking to look for cars. So yeah, I totally get that.
It always seems the model was laying over the portion of the car that you wanted to see. Yeah, they were always in the way.
Always blocking the high beams.
Yeah.
Anyway. Jason said, Derek, 60s Ford van, but I'm not really sure why. No, I'm sorry. No.
No Econo line for you, eh?
I'm sorry. I do not see myself in a 1960s Ford van.
Disapproving Cat must have looked up the T-top Marlboro trucks because he said there were 10 custom giveaways. So that's the obscure knowledge that some of us carry. Yeah. That's why we've been doing this for approaching 500 episodes, I think.
Nice. Well, I'm just glad I'm the one that nobody can figure out on the show.
Man of many hubcaps.
An international man of mystery.
And they were 92s, not 91s, my hair. Disapproving Cat's now searching Auto Tempest, trying to find himself a Marlboro.
Oh, yeah. He's gonna own one by the end of the week.
I've only seen like 2 for sale in probably the last 10 years. Not that I'm looking every day for one, but
you don't have your saved search set up.
No, but now all of a sudden I'm really tempted to see if that Dakota's still for sale.
He said you were right, John. They were 91 model years given away in 92.
Oh, okay.
Well, now that we've got that cleared up, gentlemen, I have to tell you that I have to get a teenager to the high school at 5 a.m. tomorrow, which means I have to wake up at 4 because I promised a Dunkin' stop along the way.
You could run out tonight and get the Dunkin'.
That's not gonna.
Or you could have it Uber Eats tomorrow morning. But
all right. Well, I mean, I think it was a good show.
It was. This has been a fun topic. I loved it.
Yeah, we talked about
choice,
a lot.
John.
Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat with us tonight. Hope you did like the new little feed that StreamYard introduced that we could go through. And I'm going to give the guys a second after I say we're done here. So it's time to get off your ass, burn some gas, because I am out.
And now that John's out, guys. Oh, geez. Oh, look at that. He actually literally left. Dave's the one that has to go, and John's the one that backs out early. Nice. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Obviously, in the No Driving Gloves community, we're trying to grow, so help us out. Share the show. QR code, buy us a coffee. Give us a like every now and then on YouTube. Follow us, all that good stuff, because this is the podcast where we come for our social hour. Okay, this is a social community. So we like having the comments and getting you guys involved. So keep coming. All right, Dave, say your garage line.
Thanks for stopping by the garage, guys.